Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something really incredible. We're going to explore how a truly unique cultural corridor actually protects and sustains a deeply rooted African American culture. We're looking at the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor, which isn't just a boundary on a map. It's a living, breathing framework dedicated to preserving a community that has survived centuries of profound change. One must take care of the root to heal the tree. You know, this powerful Gullah proverb perfectly frames our journey today. It highlights a really simple but profound truth. To preserve a living culture, you have to fiercely protect its roots. You simply can't sustain the branches of a community without nurturing the exact foundations from which it grew in the first place. So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll be looking at 1. Roots of a unique culture. 2. The threat of erasure. 3. The heritage corridor solution. 4. Preserving foodways and crafts. 5. Voices, spirituals, and healing. And finally, 6. The future of the Gullah. Okay, Section 1. Roots of a unique culture, born from isolation. Let's jump right into where this rich culture began and how geography played a massive role in its survival. To really understand the Gullah Geechee people, you have to look at how they preserved their West and Central African heritage, and that was primarily through incredibly strong community ties. The artist Jonathan Green actually recalls from his own childhood, growing up without running water or a television, that the massive live oak tree was literally the center of life. It was a place where elders shared stories, passed down myths, and taught herbal medicine. It was right there, in this isolated rural environment along the southeastern U.S. coast, that the roots of the culture really took hold and flourished. And you can see the remarkable progression right here. Descended from West and Central Africans who were enslaved on coastal plantations, the Gullah Geechee experienced intense geographic isolation on the Sea Islands throughout the 1800s and 1900s. Now, this separation actually protected their culture. It allowed them to retain African traditions more than any other Black American group. That resilience carried them all the way through the Civil Rights era and eventually led to the 2006 creation of a federal heritage corridor to formally recognize and protect this legacy. Moving on to Section 2, the threat of erasure, modern challenges. Because as time marched on, that protective geographic isolation began to fade. Bridges were built, the modern world rushed in, and it brought some intense new pressures with it. Today, the Gullah Geechee face severe threats from rampant coastal development. We're seeing ongoing, real-time fights on places like Sapelo Island in Georgia, where residents are actively resisting development plans that threaten their historic way of life. On top of that, they're dealing with economic pressure from cheap imported imitations undercutting local artisans, plus a long history of outsiders stigmatizing their language and pushing for systemic cultural assimilation. It's a lot to go up against. Which brings us to Section 3, the Heritage Corridor Solution, a living framework. To combat this erasure, a massive protective umbrella was established spanning the coastlines of North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. The Commission manages this corridor through 3 interdependent pillars designed to empower the community while actively preserving their history: education, economic development, and documentation and preservation. So the main takeaway here, actually the absolutely crucial point, is that this corridor isn't just about putting history behind a glass display case. It is a working mechanism. It's driving economic sustainability for the people living there right now and physically securing the land and historical data before it disappears. Let's look at Section 4, Preserving Foodways and Crafts, the Tangible Heritage. Let's get into the physical stuff the corridor protects, starting with the deeply rooted food they eat and the incredible crafts they make. Having lived right on the water for generations, traditional Gullah Geechee meals heavily feature seafood. Think crabs, shrimp, oysters, often caught using handmade cast nets. They also celebrate with very specific, meaningful meals. For instance, on New Year's Eve, it is a big tradition to prepare hop and john, which is a dish of small peas and rice meant to symbolize wealth and bring prosperity in the coming year. And the reason this cuisine survived the way it did is fascinating. If you compare the coast of West Africa to the Carolina and Georgia Lowcountry, the climates are remarkably similar. It's almost like a geographic mirror. This meant that ancestral knowledge about rice cultivation, seafood harvesting, and farming could survive and seamlessly adapt to this new environment. It created this incredibly rich tapestry of shared culinary traditions across generations. 250. That is absolutely incredible when you think about it. That's the number of years the sweetgrass basket weaving tradition has survived in South Carolina. This makes it one of America's longest-running continuous small business traditions, passed down diligently, hand to hand, from generation to generation.
Today, if you drive along Highway 17 north of Charleston, you'll see master weavers selling their intricate handmade baskets for hundreds of dollars. But remember those modern threats we talked about earlier? This vital entrepreneurial heritage is facing massive economic pressure from cheap imported imitations. So, the corridor steps in to promote and protect these authentic cultural assets, because supporting the economic viability of these artisans is literally the only way to preserve the craft itself.
Moving into Section 5. Voices, Spirituals, and Healing, the Intangible Heritage. Beyond the physical food and baskets, the corridor is working hard to protect vital, intangible elements like language, music, and ancestral medicine. Let's talk about the Gullah language. It's a unique Creole that was once heavily stigmatized by outsiders who wrongly viewed it as a mark of low status, which effectively pushed it out of public spaces. But it was fiercely protected and kept alive within the safety of local homes. Scholars refer to this as a kind of covert prestige, a complex internal community pride that totally insulated the language from being wiped out. Today, it remains a powerful living marker of identity for the Geechee people. Their musical traditions are also this incredibly dynamic force. On St. Helena Island, Gullah spirituals evolved directly from West African roots. Because they were grounded in an oral tradition, these songs were highly adaptable. At the turn of the century, they were actually used to rally support for World War I. Then, decades later, civil rights activists in the 1960s adopted those exact same spirituals as powerful freedom songs. It's a true testament to their cultural resonance. Which brings us to a really fascinating question explored by researchers regarding natural healing and bodily autonomy. How does herbalism transform from a healthcare alternative into a political statement? Well, historically, Gullah Geechee women relied on natural healing and midwifery entirely out of necessity, especially in circumstances where legal and medical structures were trying to regulate and control them. By synthesizing African, Native, and European traditions, they built a unique, holistic approach that treats the spiritual self right alongside the physical body. Today, researchers point out that this communal model is being actively reclaimed by Black women, not just for survival, but as a deliberate act of self-determination and political resistance against restrictive medical legislation. Section 6. The Future of the Gullah, Balancing Growth and Legacy. As we look to the future, the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor stands out as a crucial beacon of resilience, constantly managing the friction between the modern world and ancient traditions. This federally recognized corridor, which spans across 4 coastal states, is so much more than a museum exhibit. It is an active, living framework fighting day in and day out to sustain a culture. By engaging the community, securing grants, and promoting heritage tourism, the corridor is doing the on-the-ground work to ensure the environment, the language, and the people continue to thrive. Going back to that proverb from the very beginning, preserving this culture requires continuous, active stewardship. You can't just passively observe it. You really have to invest in it. From the master weavers on the highway to the keepers of natural healing knowledge, these traditions represent a living economy, built by people who took exactly what the land and water provided and made something beautiful, something worth passing down. So I'll leave you with this final, provocative thought to consider. As bridges continue to connect once isolated islands, and as coastal development surges forward, how do we balance modern economic progress with the active preservation of one of America's most unique living histories? It's a very delicate balance, and for sure, it's one that requires our conscious effort. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope you found this journey through the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor as fascinating as I did. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and remember to take care of the roots around you.